I've already summoned meteor.
Okay, let's go. Ace.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name is Fonzie. I'm joined by my co-host, indie game dev extraordinaire, UK bruv from another mum, Cal Monroe. Calum, how are you?
Yeah, good. I'm excited that this day's finally come. We've been talking about it for months now, so it's finally here. So yeah,
It's crazy.
I wasn't sure if I'd make it, but we made it.
The world almost didn't make it, but we hung
Yeah, I know,
out long
yeah.
enough.
Yeah,
But so we're on the
just about got there.
we're on the other end now. We finally have a date and a price. Most importantly, we saw some more footage, and so it's pretty cool to be alive now. It's finally happening.
Yeah.
We had Xbox confirmed last week, and so it's all rolling, and it's kind of getting closer to what it should be, like a normal console launch. But yeah, so I mean, we haven't talked prior about this, but getting into the stream, watching it, what were your overall thoughts? We'll get into the nitty gritty and details of the stuff, but like overall, what were your impressions? How'd you feel with how they handled that stream?
Yeah, I think I mean everything. Well, I say everything. Pretty much everything they showed was super impressive. It was like proper. Seemed like a proper next gen showing. I mean, especially like the gameplay they showed, and there wasn't really a. In fact, I could be wrong, but I don't think out of the big announcements that there was no just like CG trailers. It was everything had gameplay. Everything you
Right.
could see really well. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. What did you think?
Yeah, same here. It was surprising how they really nailed just like the flow. There was that middle bit where it kind of lagged, and I would say when they kind of started talking about Call of Duty, kind of lagged a little bit. But you got to have some time to breathe, and they were just kind of nailing these announcements. And I love that we got to see a huge chunk of Miles Morales gameplay, and that was my big
Yeah.
demand. Going forward, it's like this game's getting close. We need to see some footage of it, and sure enough, they did. And starting off the bat with Final Fantasy, which I thought was really nuts,
Yeah.
and I did not expect that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, I think they nailed it. I would have liked, and we'll get into the fiasco that was the pre-order stuff, but I would have liked them actually announcing during the stream, and you can pre-order it tomorrow, something like that.
Yeah.
But they just kind of left you hanging and left a lot of the details for afterwards for everyone to pick apart, which was strange to me. But I think overall, yeah, it was a really dope stream, and I think they really needed this.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was. I think it was definitely proof that this is where the attention should be. Really, I think just I mean, especially the Miles Morales gameplay. I mean, starting with Final Fantasy 16 as well is such a bold move. I thought. I mean, I didn't expect that at all. I'd seen sort of rumors about it, but I thought, nah, Final Fantasy 16 isn't happening until like 2030 at least, surely. So
Right.
to get that trailer and gameplay at the same time. I can't remember the last time Square Enix announced a Final Fantasy game where there was gameplay. It's sort of a really nice change in how they do things. So yeah, I thought it was very bold, very very impressive. And yeah, I mean the pre-orders are a pain, and I haven't been able to get my hands on one because of how just strange it's all been. I mean there hasn't really been any concrete announcements about pre-orders. It's all coming from like the retailers and things like that, and it's just very difficult to understand. But in terms of like the actual prices, I think the prices are great. I think they're pretty much what everyone's been predicting, really. I think in the UK we're getting shafted a little bit because of the exchange rate and everything, but I mean I'm still happy to pay. I think it's $359.99 for the digital edition in the UK, and I'm more than happy to pay that. So yeah, so I mean, overall, very good. I mean, there's little nitpicks, mostly around me being scared that I'm not going to get one on launch day, but nah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, you're right. Where there is that exchange rate thing going on with the UK. I wonder with the pre-order stuff. I'm seeing. So of course the internet lit on fire as pre-orders kind of went early. It seems like I was just seeing that in the States. I'm not sure if that's opened up. If you're retail wise, you're able to jump in the UK and it's just being
Mhm.
sold out, or is it not even an option right now?
Yeah, no. So after the event, I went straight onto like Amazon and everything to see if I could buy one because that's how it was when the PS4 was announced. It I think they even said in the show like you can pre-order them now. But I thought I'd check just in case, and there was nothing on, and all the things I'd read online were that they'd start tomorrow, and they were actually meant
Mm.
to start, like tomorrow as in today. But a lot of them went live like stupid time and sort of last night and early hours in the morning, but there was no like news about it. Nothing. PlayStation didn't say anything about it, so I missed out on that. And they all sold out within minutes anyway. So yeah, it's all it's all a bit mad. But I mean, we've got a place. I don't know if you've got an Argos over in the States, but that's sort of a store near us, and
Okay.
apparently they're sort of starting their pre-orders tomorrow. So I'm hoping I can latch onto them. But I mean, even then, I don't know what time they're going to be on. It just says tomorrow, and yeah, it's just all very confusing, a bit chaotic. But I'm optimistic that I'll get one eventually.
Yeah, I mean, same. Like, it's funny that they really messed up this launch so bad, but or this whole pre-order thing. But then this morning I woke up and it's been even worse with the RTX 30 series, those graphics cards,
Yeah.
where it looks like people use bots to just completely wipe
Mhm.
out the inventory within like 5 or 10 seconds. Like people were refreshing,
Yeah.
no one actually got the opportunity to put it in their cart, and it was just instantly
Mhm.
gone. So you have this. They somehow did a worse job than PlayStation releasing the PS5 pre-orders. But so that's been
Mhm.
super big bummer to me too. It's like not that I really had the money to
Yeah.
buy it, but it was cool to see,
No.
people being able to actually jump in like Christmas morning and get their pre-orders and stuff. But no, and then of
Mhm.
course they're all on eBay, the 3080s anyways,
Yeah.
for like $1,000, $1,500, and
Yeah.
so it's just they're
Yeah.
just scalpers.
Yeah, that I mean the PS5s are the same as well. There's PS5s on eBay for like £750. There's loads of them,
Really.
and it's such a shame that people do that because they just go on and take up all the stock and just to sell it on. It's just, I mean, people were like have had photos of the receipts and everything like as their like
Yeah.
product photos, and yeah, it's just yeah, it is very frustrating. I was almost sort of wanting to just message them all like and call them horrible names, like which is what we do in Britain.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah. I mean, hopefully I'll get one. I mean, there's lots of retailers that haven't got stock yet, so it's only like Game and Amazon really that have actually had them in, and they've gone quickly, which is to be expected. So yeah, hopefully I'll have better luck tomorrow.
I've noticed. So we have GameStop in the States. I want to say you guys have Game is the name of it. Like it's like a
Yes.
general gaming retailer in the UK.
Yeah.
I know I've seen people online have better luck going into their local GameStop and
Mm.
actually getting like putting a physical
Yeah.
pre-order down there. But they're
Yeah.
even allocated a certain amount of stock. Where at the GameStops in the States, I guess they have across the board. It's like 12 PS4 disc versions that you can actually pre-order there, or they have four of the digital ones. So I don't know if there's just,
Mhm.
they're expecting more demand of the disc version, or GameStop is not, they don't like the fact that they're going all digital. So it's like, okay, we're only going to
Mhm.
sell four of these, per store.
Mhm.
But I've noticed there's like a difference in which ones are even available for people to buy, at least physically at their retail stores.
Yeah, yeah. I did see that you can go in store and pre-order, but I don't think there's a store really nearby me anymore because I think it's probably same GameStop. I think they're like the same company, but game stores have been closing like nothing sort of
Right.
around here recently. So they are quite hard to find. They're pretty much just an online retailer now. There's a few shops, but yeah, they've all been hit pretty hard. Not just from COVID. I mean, far before that, they've been closing everywhere. So um, yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm sure I'll get someone to sell me one, but I'm not paying more than the retail price because I'll just wait if that's the case. But did you manage to get one?
I did, yeah, through Target. So in the
Oh,
evening,
nice.
as it was exploding online, and was able to grab a pre-order, but
Mm.
it took a lot of effort on my end. Excuse me, where I had to
Yeah,
just follow the right people on Twitter. So like my go-to is always, excuse me, on Twitter there is Wario64. He's a
yeah,
great, or whoever runs that channel, that page. It's a great way to hear not only just like this pre-order stuff, but like just general gaming leaks will be there, or sales
yeah.
on stuff all the time. So he's always my go-to. And
Mm.
he was posting, by the second, like when Walmart would go live, when Best Buy would go live, and so that was a great way
Yeah.
to watch it in real time and then jump on immediately. But
Yeah.
if you weren't doing any effort on your end, or even if you were, it's like you were still SOL. And so it really, was Sony's ball to drop. I mean, Sony still has their, and they've been getting a lot of criticism online, but they set up that page, what, a month ago, 2 months ago, where it's like you
Mm.
can sign up with your PSN, you'll get emailed to be one of the first to actually set a pre order. And what
Mhm.
happened to that? I finally got an
Yeah, I
email
love
last
that. Yeah.
night. I got one late in the night saying like I'm in line to pre-order one, but it doesn't open until Friday, even though the pre-orders go live technically today, Thursday. So it's very strange, and
Mm.
I'm not sure how
Yeah.
many stock they have, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's just been a whole mess. I wish they would have handled that way better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think because in the UK as well, it started at 9 p.m. So it was kind of we didn't have like the evening to look at
Right.
websites and pre-order. It was almost like, it started 9 p.m., finished at, near 10 o'clock. And then so then that's why everywhere was like, oh yeah, pre-orders start tomorrow from 9 a.m. But these retailers ended up selling their stock far before that. So I don't know whether I mean, obviously Sony have the majority of the responsibility there, but I think it's also to do with retailers just trying to get these things out as quick as possible as well. So yeah, it has been a bit chaotic, but I'm sure it'll all work out in the end.
It will. Yeah, that's a bummer to hear that you're, putting your sweet little brain to sleep thinking, "Oh, they told me tomorrow is when the
Yeah, yeah,
pre-orders go
right,
live."
yeah,
And then
yeah,
meanwhile, while you're
yeah,
sleeping, the internet's on fire. But yeah, let's go into
yeah.
the details of the actual event that they showed off. So we can go one by one and kind of spend as much time as you'd like on some of these reveals that they had. So we'll start off with the beginning. The first one they started off the show with was Final Fantasy 16. So we got actual gameplay as well. So this is Final Fantasy 16 revealed. It's a PlayStation console exclusive. It will also be released on PC. What did you think of? I've not historically been a fan of Final Fantasy, but of course, it's a hugely loved property. What did you think about the footage they showed and them going back to like a traditional Final Fantasy entry, not like a remake?
Yeah, I was so excited. Again, like as soon as it came up, because I'd seen some artwork or like an in-game sort of shot that had been sort of making the rounds about Final Fantasy 16, but I just assumed it was something like I don't know, like a technical demo or something from a while ago. So as soon as I saw this character, I was like, "Oh, this is definitely Final Fantasy 16." Then you see the chocobos and everything, and the music, of course. And yeah, I'm so glad it's got that sort of medieval kind of high fantasy tone again. It seems quite dark as well, um, and it seems very much like Final Fantasy 14 too. Like even the sort of character designs and the sort of visual style seems very much like Final Fantasy 14. And the producer and the director, they're both from Final Fantasy 14 as well. And I think there's some people working on it who worked on like Dragon's Dogma as well, which is sort of
Hmm.
you can sort of draw those two together when you sort of hear that as well. Um, but yeah, I think it looks absolutely great. I'm hoping that the combat has sort of they're taking it from the Final Fantasy 7 remake rather than 15 because I think 15 is quite objectively disliked by the sort of Final Fantasy fan base just for being too easy and not really deep enough for that kind of game. Whereas 7 really tightened it up and created a really great system. So I'm hoping that they'll take what they need to from there. And yeah, I think the only negative I sort of could see was it looks like you're on your own. It looks like you just play as one character, which isn't isn't the best thing for me really. But hopefully that's just the trailer that we saw. But yeah, I think it looks great.
Yeah, what happened to the road trip with your boys, like in the last one, where you're going around with a boy band, and driving a car? For some
Yeah.
reason, I never think of cars exist in Final Fantasy, but yeah, they
Yeah,
kind of
I mean, Final Fantasy
abandoned
15
it.
is just an abomination anyway. So yeah, so maybe they're just going as far away from that as possible. In which case, I'm all on board for that.
Gotcha. So yeah, that was a
Um,
strong beginning to that show. Showed that off,
yeah.
and it's a console exclusive and also released on PC. It seems like they have a really
Hmm.
good deal with setup with Square, where the last remaster or remake of Final Fantasy VII, I want to say that's still it was a year exclusive to PlayStation, then going to PC. I wonder if I don't remember if that's still Sony console exclusive or that's eventually going to Xbox, but I know for sure they have a year before it goes to PC.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure actually. I'd have to look at that. But yeah, I mean, I actually forgot that that was even a thing. I mean, Final Fantasy 7 remake is one of my favorite games of the year. It's great game, and yeah, I think that from what I've seen of 16, it looks brilliant. And what I was saying to you earlier, is like every time a Final Fantasy game is announced, it's always like a running joke that when a Final Fantasy game's announced, or even just a Square Enix game, they'll announce it and then it'll be like 10 years before it even comes out.
Yeah,
But I think the fact that this was it being announced, first time we even heard of Final Fantasy 16, and they were able to show us quite a lot of gameplay. I think that that's a really good sign, and I think that because again, normally we wouldn't see gameplay until about 5 years after we saw some CG trailer revealing it. So yeah, I think that's a really good sign. I don't think we'll necessarily be waiting as long as the jokes sort of that are already sort of coming out are saying, but yeah, I'm really, really excited. As you know, I love Final Fantasy, and it's just really, really nice to. It was just really nice to even just see the logo at the end and just have a new mainline Final Fantasy. It's very, very exciting.
yeah, for sure. You're right that they showed off gameplay, which gives me hope that this is coming out soon. They didn't put a
Mm,
2021 tagline, if I remember correctly, so
yeah,
maybe they're shooting for 2022. And I guess I like that they're not putting a time on this thing and maybe learning from,
yeah,
not announcing stuff too early and kind of waiting for this thing to
yeah.
be ready to go.
Yeah. I think the only thing I saw that sort of kind of shows off a possible or an estimate of a date is there's going to be like a big reveal, or not a reveal event, but a big event focused on Final Fantasy 16 in 2021. So it
Gotcha.
looks like that's where the big, meat and veg of everything's going to be shown. And yeah, 2022 would be awesome. I think that would be really cool, especially for a game that we didn't even know existed yet,
Right.
especially with because it doesn't look like Square Enix are developing it either. I don't know if you noticed, but it seemed like obviously Square Enix had their name on it, but I think it said something like Creative Industries 3 or something, some other sort of
Interesting.
studio. So that makes sense with Final Fantasy 7 remake, obviously in development as well with the second part. So quite an it'll be interesting to see how that works, because if they can have two Final Fantasies sort of at the same time, kind of like how Resident Evil working at the moment. I think that would be really, really cool. I can't get enough Final Fantasy, so it's all very, very exciting.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, you're right. You mentioned Creative Business Unit 3 is
Yeah,
that first tagline they showed off. So yeah, they must be
yeah.
passing off development so they can go
Terrible
back and
name,
forth.
but
Yeah, this is just like a business card or like a receipt you'd find some
I'm
text on.
sure I'm sure it sounds cool in Japanese.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so the next one they showed off, I thought was another strong, carry on with the gameplay footage. We finally got to see Miles Morales running on the PS5, and it looked insane. So I have some details about Miles Morales here, and this is all from IGN2, their overview. But we have Spider-Man Miles Morales gameplay. Spider-Man Miles Morales was confirmed as a PS5 launch game. After the conference, Sony confirmed to press that Miles Morales will also release on PS4, but without next-gen visual/performance upgrades. Spider-Man Miles Morales will cost $49.99 in the US. Looks like 59 if you can help me on that little weird E. Looks like 59 in the UK,
Euros.
99 euros. There we go. On
Yeah,
both the
yeah.
PS4. Gotcha. That's my limited knowledge of if it's not American, then I don't know how to process it. On both, so it's on both PS4, PS5, or they have a $69.99/$79.99 in the UK for Spider-Man Miles Morales Ultimate Edition. Ultimate Edition will be a PS5 only release of Miles Morales that comes with a next-gen upgrade to Marvel's Spider-Man, the actual complete game with visual/performance upgrades. We'll get into some of the details of the different like packages they have, but what did you think of the gameplay they had?
I thought it was amazing. I think it's very comparable to Ratchet and Clank, and how there's so many particle effects and just so much going on. It just looks unbelievable. Flows really nice, really smooth. I thought the little QTEs are really cool. I thought they were good fun in the original Spider-Man. Yeah, I think it looks awesome. That definitely looks like a um, expansion on the first game, not a fully fledged sequel. You can tell that, but I think that there's definitely enough different there that to warrant sort of whatever cost that it comes in at. And yeah, I think it looks absolutely brilliant. I think the lighting looked really good, especially at the beginning when he's sort of walking through that little market. Yeah, really, really excited about this one.
Yeah, I think I've heard other people break it apart as I was listening to different podcasts and stuff, but we were used to when Spider-Man was originally announced, we were kind of standoffish with making sure, okay, how does the actual gameplay flow? Is it looking like what they're promising? And we're used to now, they nailed it with the original Spider-Man. So seeing the gameplay unfold with the quick time events, but then flashing back into combat, it's like I really trust how they're going to handle it, and I'm super
Yeah.
excited. I love his new abilities. He has that invisible mode. He has the electrical charges he can charge up,
Mhm.
and then just hearing like the soundtrack also kick up, and it's a different type
Yeah.
of soundtrack, more like the Spider-Man multiverse movie that came out a while ago, and they're just nailing it for me. I'm really digging the
Mhm.
combat. It looks beautiful, of course. How do you feel about them also offering a PS4 version? They kind of intro the PS5 saying we believe in generations and we want to focus on unlocking the full potential of the hardware. But this is then
Mhm.
they said, yeah, that's cool. Never mind. We're gonna go with this being on PS4.
Yeah.
How do you feel
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a lot of mixed messages over the sort of past few years, really, about the PlayStation 5 ever since it was, confirmed as being a thing. You had Sony at first saying how the PlayStation 4 is still going to be their main focus, even sort of years into the PS5, and then they obviously went back on that by saying that they believe in generations, which I agree with as well. I think I think I can see both stances, but I definitely agree with the generation thing mostly. And now they've sort of gone back again, so I think it's a good thing, obviously, because not everyone's going to make the transition, and it would be a shame for people not to be able to play a game that is basically an expansion of a game. They would be able to play that on their on the console of the original game. Um, but yeah, I think the negative part comes from Sony and their mixed messaging. I don't really know sort of what's happened there, because it's not like they could have made that decision too late, because if they've from the start been just going for PS5, and then when the backlash, because there was a bit of backlash about them not bringing it to, or bringing games to PS4. I can't imagine that they were able to backtrack in terms of development and say, "Oh, we will bring this out on PS4 then." So, yeah, I don't know. It's very confusing, but ultimately, it's a good thing. It means more people will be able to experience this game. If it's held back, then it looks bloody good for being a held back game. So I'm
Right.
more than happy to play that. So
Yeah, it's very true. And that's one thing I'm wondering at the same time is that how is this game going to be held back? Because they really advertise the PS5 focusing on the super fast SSD, and
mhm,
that's what was gonna be key for for Miles Morales to succeed. And now that it's releasing on PS4, not using that, how are they able to? Maybe they have an engine that's able to just kind of adjust on the fly and handle the normal loading of the PS4 versus the super fast loading of the PS5. Just seems weird
mhm,
to have these two different modes, and they would have, you're right, they would have had to develop this quite a while ago. Like they would have known on the Insomniac side that they're going to have these two different options.
yeah,
And is it as easy as just flipping a switch and there's less people on the street, you're not loading as fast, reduced textures, and that's all that we get for the upgrade to the Miles Morales? It's very strange. It's just kind of a bummer because I was coming to terms and happy with the idea of them switching to PS5 being exclusive as far as their games
mhm,
go. They're going to lock the full, hardware, and it's them not holding back at all. But this seems like they're just kind of throwing that out of the window. But
mhm,
it is good for consumers because if you have PS4, you can still play it. That's great. At the same time, it's like why then? It's the Xbox dilemma. Why then are we rushing to
mhm,
buy the PS5 if a lot of these games are still cross generational on
mhm.
PS4?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think we all made a big thing about Ghost of Tsushima being the last exclusive on PS4, when that, especially when we start talking about Horizon as well, obviously with that being confirmed for PS4 as well, it's just not the case anymore. So I don't know whether that was Twitter taking a quote and running with it to create this sort of narrative. I know that they definitely said something, but you know, Sony's a big company. Sometimes people might say things wrong, or it might get misconstrued. So I don't know. It is very strange. But yeah, like I said, ultimately it's a good thing, and we've seen gameplay now. So
Right.
whether or not it's held back, it looks amazing. So if it is held back, I don't care, because that to me looks next gen, and I'm fully on board with the game looking like that. So
Yeah, I'm fully confident it's going to look great on PS4 or PS5. It's going to look even
mhm,
better. This also unlocks my brain. It's another conversation, but the fact that they're able to have this thing be backwards compatible with the PS4 and run just fine, even though they're using with the PS5, they're using the haptic feedback, they're using the adaptive triggers that are kind of
mhm,
special for the PS5. But with PS4, you're just turning all those modes off, I imagine, on the controller.
yeah,
It's not available. So what happened to the PS5 controller only being able to work on PS5 because of those features? But you have a game on PS4 that just doesn't have those features. Why not let the controller work on the PS4 with just turning off those
Mm.
modes, and then you have a PS4 controller? At
Mm.
least digitally for the thing to register, it's just a PS4 controller with those modes turned off.
Mm.
It seems weird
Yeah.
too because they were setting this up as this only works with this DualSense only works with PS5 because of all these features, but they have a game that's also on each console that just has those features turned off. It seems like
Yeah.
then they're choosing for that DualSense to not be compatible for whatever reason. It's more of a choice and not like they're actually held
Yeah.
back because they have these features that only work on said console.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this decision, whether or not, either of us really mind if it's happening, I think it does create some almost like plot holes in what Sony have been saying about the PS5, because a lot of their decisions they've made you could always put down to, well, it doesn't matter, it's just because they're leaving the PS4 behind.
Right.
But now you can't really use that. So yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there was also the line of Sony saying that they were going to continue supporting the PS4 far into the PS5's life cycle. So it's kind of like maybe that is actually the quote we should have stuck with rather than the generational one, which seems to have had a lot more of a sort of response from people. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm not too bothered personally. I think again, it's good. It's a good thing, and I'd be bothered if I thought Miles Morales looked, or if it could look better, but I really don't think it could. So I don't mind what it's like on PS4 if it's gonna, look shoddy or whatever, because I will be getting it on PS5. But I think just the fact it's gonna be there for PS4 players, then I think that's a good thing. Although I say that I probably will need to get it on PS4 if I don't get myself a PS5 pre-ordered.
Right. That's very true. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's that the whole aspect is strange to me. At the same time, it's like I don't care when I have the DualSense. I'm just gonna have it and also have my
Yeah.
PS4, and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think that they don't want to lose the huge amount of consoles that they have with the PS4 and not release software there. I think
Mhm.
that's really what's showing, is that like why would they leave so much money
Yeah.
on the table? And that's ultimately the deciding factor with these decisions, is that they're losing so much money if they don't release it on PS4 because
Mhm.
literally
Yeah.
everybody has it. So I mean, it makes sense. Go for it. I guess
Yeah.
it only
Yeah.
becomes a problem when it's holding back these next generation of games, but at the moment, it doesn't seem like it is that, and it just shows the legs that maybe not the PS4 has, but all the tech, the engines rather,
Mm.
like the engine that Insomniac used for Spider-Man already looked crazy gorgeous. So the fact that they're able
Mm.
to push it and then upgrade it, it just shows the testament to these devs, really.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think having to work because it is exclusive, I think it's quite it's still that's still quite not many things to develop for.
Sure.
Because it's like with Xbox exclusives, they have, your Series S now, you've got your One X, you've got your normal Xbox One, and you've got PC, which then has a whole array of different combinations. So I think this is better than it, I think this is still the best possible version of having to scale something back. But um, ideally, you'd like it just to be a single console to develop for. But yeah, like I said, I mean, there's nothing to sort of say about Miles Morales how it looks on PS5. So there's no sign of it being held back, and you wonder whether Sony have just been waiting for that gameplay to be launched before saying it's going to be on PS4. Because I'm sure that if people already knew it was going to be on PS4, they'd be trying to pick it apart and say it looks bad here and there's a texture pop here or something stupid. So yeah, so it
Or
might have something to do
puddles
with that as well.
missing somewhere.
Puddles, yeah, yeah. They've learned from the first time not to keep their cards close to their chest, I suppose.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, looks great. Can't wait to actually play that, whether it's on PS4, PS5. The next one they showed off, this one has been rumored for a while, but they actually showed off gameplay and looks like a date that they're trying to lock into. So this is Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy. Harry Potter, yes. The rumored Harry Potter RPG was finally announced with a world premiere trailer dubbed Hogwarts Legacy. It looks like players will be able to travel back to the late 1800s and visit well-known locations from the movies and books. Hogwarts Legacy will be available on PS5 in 2021. Are you much of a Harry Potter fan? Where did this find you? Were you interested in this at all?
I used to love Harry Potter when it first came out when I was a little kid. I went
A
off of
wee
it
little
around like
Callum.
maybe the fifth one. Yeah, a wee little Callum. Um, yeah, I sort of went off it around the fifth one, and then I didn't watch them. I didn't see any of the other the ones after the fifth one, and I ended up watching them at sort of later dates. So
Mm,
yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of nostalgia with like the first three films, and I still love like the first three films. And I think it's very iconic. I love the music. I love the sort of aesthetic of it all. So yeah, I'm actually really pumped for this. I thought it looked really cool. I loved how it showed the just how big Hogwarts is and how you can explore everywhere. And I thought it was going to stop there, but then it was like, and you've also got the world outside of all these monsters and place to explore. I think it looks really, really good. Really, really excited to sort of find out more about it because I don't really understand if it's a MMO or do we know that yet, or if it's a just a single player thing.
yeah, as far as the bullet points they mentioned, yeah, it's a single player RPG. So it looks
Cool.
like you're just kind of you're right. You're locked into the Hogwarts, but also you can venture around. You're gonna visit
Yeah,
the woods. I think they've released that the woods around the area. And then with
yeah,
Hogwarts, there's magic involved, so you can teleport at random places too. So they'll
yeah.
figure that out.
Yeah. No, I'm really, really excited. And I loved the again like the first three Harry Potter games as well. They've always been sort of really mystical and fun, and they've always sort of been able to use the fact that it's a game just to flesh out certain areas that you never got to see in the films or the books. So, and it looks like it's certainly doing that. I mean, especially when you see the flying sort of over the world and
Right.
that big monster that was sort of attacking in like the forest. It looks really, really impressive. And yeah, like I said, I'm really excited to see more about it.
Yeah, this one is pretty exciting, pretty dope. I'm definitely gonna wait for reviews and stuff, but it looks cool, and I'm glad that they're
Yeah,
digging into that because there's so much story I imagine that they could explore that hasn't even been touched by the books or the
yeah,
movies. So
yeah, yeah. I'm just waiting for
nice,
there to be like a Verizon skin pack or something
right,
to be announced.
right. Yeah, this gives me hope they're not going into that because I guess that would really stand out in Harry Potter. But along with
Yeah.
that, like it's single player too, so they're trying to get this to not be like a Destiny kind of thing, which they easily could. You could have
Yeah.
your party
Oh
of
yeah. Yeah.
of people from Hogwarts, but
Yeah.
yeah, so we got that Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy showing off for the first time. Then we had Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War campaign gameplay. So yeah, they showed off some gameplay for the first mission in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War called Nowhere Left to Run. It was shown during the PS5 event. Not only that, but PS4 players will get exclusive access to the Cold War multiplayer alpha on September 18th, which is Friday, and that's going to be free. So you just have to be on PSN, have that account, and then you can play the multiplayer. You don't have to pre-order anything, which is that's pretty dope. I think it's just free for the weekend. But
Mhm.
what did you think of the gameplay shown? I know you're kind of lackluster on this newest Call of War or Call of Duty.
Mhm. Yeah, it looked fine. It looked like a Call of Duty campaign. I like Call of Duty campaigns for the most part. I like the newest single player. Yeah, it looks like Call of Duty, really.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks nice. Obviously, the graphics are nice, and but yeah, it seems like it plays well. And I like the RC car bit. I thought that was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I thought it looked just fine.
yeah, same. And I think this is kind of where the conference dips a little bit because with Call of Duty, it's like it's kind of expected, and we've seen so much of it already with their own events and reveals. So I was hoping they would kind of go, and it was a short little snippet, so you jump in and out, and that's fine. But they have their deal with Activision with Call of Duty, so they were going to shoehorn in that somehow. And I guess good news at the fact that they have that free beta. That's a positive. But you're right. I don't know if we really needed to see this. This spot could have been used for something else that would have blown people away. But the game
Mhm.
still looks awesome. It's just we've seen a good amount of Call of Duty at this point.
Yeah.
Nice. So we got that. We got the Resident Evil Village gameplay trailer revealed. So we got a look at a Resident Evil Village gameplay trailer that digs even deeper into the dark fairy tale aesthetic we've seen, with a creepy old lady, exploration through chilling environments, monsters, and a folk tale of a little girl in the forest. What did you think of this trailer? I found it interesting. They're kind of flipping back and forth between that storytelling mechanic with like the animation going on, along with telling the story of the game. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I really loved how it was sort of stylized, and I loved a lot of the gameplay parts as well. Especially, you saw the enemies jump down like with a big hammer. It looks a lot more Resident Evil. So I remember Resident Evil 7. Whilst I did enjoy it, it was just those black mold creatures or whatever they're called.
Right.
So this looks a lot more. fun. It's got a bit of charm, but also looks very creepy as well. Yeah, I think it looks great. I think the only thing that I was sort of thinking about was how does this tie in with Resident Evil? The you've got that folktale thing, which was really cool, and I really liked the style of it. But if you think about what Resident Evil is, especially considering Chris seems to be a proper character in this. How does this relate to what happened at Raccoon City with the T virus? Is this just a world that has really bad luck and just all these horrible things happen in it, or I'd like to know how it all ties in together, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it just doesn't. But yeah, so I think that was the only sort of thing I was kind of thinking. Yeah, this looks really cool, but as it got more and more kind of different, especially with that sort of folktale thing, I just kind of thought, you know what, you know, how is this relevant to Resident Evil at all? So yeah, so I'll be interested to see how they do tie it all together. But other than that, it looks really, really good. I think it looks really scary. It looks like a really nice direction change in a way. But yeah, it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, same thoughts on my end. How they're gonna actually connect this to Resident Evil, because this one does seem very different. I guess
Mhm.
without knowing anything, I'm sure they'll find a way for the actual disease, the actual stuff that drives the zombies. Why am I the T virus, or I think now it's the G virus or
Mhm.
something that
Oh
it's
yeah, there's
mutated
been lots
into.
of them.
Yeah, and so I can imagine that whatever's driving the supernatural stuff is really just that disease taking over, that
Yeah,
virus taking over, and turning people into witches and werewolves and that kind of thing.
yeah,
That can maybe be how
yeah,
they tie it together. But no, I really
yeah.
dig that they're taking chances, they're changing it up, and I trust that they'll still have the same gameplay mechanics and still have you feel terrified nonstop. But they're adding this different aspect of the supernatural stuff more, and it just kind of keeps you on your toes, and that's what I want. Like, they want to try and scare you more, and maybe zombies are just as scary as they are. We're just kind of used to it, so they have to
Mm.
change it up. They're gonna keep these mainline ones going, and they still have the remakes in their back pocket to pull
Mhm.
into that nostalgia and give you that proper, quote unquote Resident Evil experience, but still
Yeah.
changing it with these newer entries. Yeah, no, I'm digging it. I think this is confirmed for PSVR and other VR modes as well. So I definitely want to try this in VR and wear a diaper and then just be ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be really cool in VR. And I was thinking as well, because with Resident Evil 7, you can tell that the reason it was a bit hit and miss for some people was because it was designed with VR really in mind, especially if you look at the kind of enemies there were, they were very, slow and sort of more just creepy. And I think that's to tie
Right.
in with VR. Whereas I'm really interested to see, and I think it'll work better now. VR's, miles ahead than it was. To see these combat encounters with multiple enemies, big enemies with big hammers and things. And really interesting to see how that plays, because they must have um, changed the gameplay up and tightened up the combat within the VR to make those kind of situations sort of playable. So yeah, I'm just really interested to see more of it. I think they're still keeping it quite. As much as there was gameplay, we're still not 100% sure how it's going to play and how it looks. But every trailer I've seen seems to be getting better and getting me more excited. So it is looking very, very good.
Yeah, and just seeing this engine running, it's, of course, it's still beautiful, but them in this European setting just gets me more and more excited for the eventual RE4 remake. I
Yeah,
just cannot wait, because it's going to look
yeah,
just so rad, so beautiful, and
yeah.
I cannot wait. It's just a race to get to that point. What'd you think at the end of the trailer? They showed off the what you buying guy, that market dude. It looks
Is
like
that is
him,
that
or
what
it
it
seems
was?
like.
I couldn't, because they sort of focused on him because he was like some big fat guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think they're
And
changing it, but I think it's like that
yeah,
character, or the idea of that
yeah,
character
like
rolling
that kind
more.
of thing. Yeah, yeah. Because I wasn't sure why they included that. Because I was like, am I supposed to recognize this guy? Like, I was sort of like looking at him, like trying to see if I remembered him from anything. Because they did sort of focus on it for a reason, it seemed.
That was a vibe
But
I
no,
got.
that's a good point. I didn't think. I don't really think I listened to what he said because I was so sort of fixated on what he looked like to try and see if I recognized him.
Yeah, yeah. He
But no,
says
that's cool. Yeah,
you can peruse, or you can look around if you're buying or something like that. and it made me think, okay, this is that
Yeah,
character
nice.
coming back, and maybe not the same guy, or he's fallen on hard times, or he looks
Yeah.
in worse
Yeah.
condition, but or he just
Yeah.
finally took off the robe, and that's what it looks like the whole time. But
He's been using his own stock.
yeah, yeah,
Eating all the
Corona hit
green
him hard.
herbs. Yeah.
Nice. So we had some other smaller trailers that showed off. So we got the new Deathloop gameplay trailer. We were given a new look at the time manipulating shooter Deathloop, featuring a very cool 70s vibe and lots of punching, shooting, and stabbing action. Deathloop is planned for launch in Q2 of 2021. This was a month ago, delayed because it was originally going to be a launch window.
Yeah.
But how did you feel about this gameplay? The more I see about this game, the more I'm just super excited for it. It looks really unique
Yeah.
and just different.
I think I think the gameplay looks awesome. I think the guns are really impactful. That just the general game. It reminded me a lot of Borderlands 3, which I think played amazingly well. So I think it looks a lot like that with the sliding and the sort of fun backdrop and everything. The only thing about this trailer in particular is it was just so nonsensical. I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what it was showing me. I didn't know if it was showing me multiplayer at first, and then
Mm,
yeah, it was just so confusing. I'd not and like every because it was obviously trying to be a bit sort of story-ish as well, sort of trying to tell a story through the trailer. I just thought none of it made sense. It was very, very confusing. So I don't really understand the game itself. I don't really know what it is and what I was looking at, but when I saw gameplay, I thought it looked like a lot of fun. So I do think it looks great. It just seems very incoherent. I don't know if that was me being stupid, but I just have no idea what this game means, what I was being shown, why people had paint all over their heads. Yeah, I'm just
yeah.
not too sure. Especially, I think in comparison to the trailer that we saw at the last PS5 event, I want to say, um, they look like two completely different games now. I just don't really know what's going on, but I am excited to see more of it and excited to play it. It looks like a lot of fun. So mostly positive.
Right. I understand what you're saying about not understanding because yeah, the trailer is it's kind of out there. They're trying to explain the story. Meanwhile, you're experiencing the gameplay, but the story is so weird and the fact that
Yeah,
there's from what I understand, there's this death loop and within you have 24 hours before it resets and this character's trying to kill the enemies in a certain way that actually releases him, but you have to
yeah,
and this is what draws me to this game is like you have to figure out in which path you need to kill them so that you actually uh, get the chance to like meet the other characters to kill them. You kind of have to
yeah,
die over and over again to set it up the proper way. Although that
yeah,
it gets thrown out of whack when at the very end they show there's another protagonist that's also fighting you at the same time you're trying
yeah,
to fight them.
yeah,
So it's super wonky, but I think for me the weirder the better. Like if they can get
yeah,
even strange, more strange. Like I loved Control, so this gives me sort of those vibes where it's like I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm on
yeah, yeah,
board, and maybe the
yeah.
gameplay will be even more confusing. But I'm down. I loved Dishonored. I'm a huge fan of
Mm.
Dishonored. Dishonored 2. This is that kind of idea with the teleporting, but they're focusing way more on combat. There's very little stealth from what I can see, and so I love that they're just going for that running gun type of gameplay versus the past. Even Prey, when they did Prey, that was more of a slower pace kind of game. So yeah, I'm super excited for this.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, again, I think it looks like a lot of fun, but yeah, I just wish I knew what it was.
Right, that's fair. It's fair to ask, hey, what is this game? What does it mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Alrighty, so the next one we had was Devil May Cry 5. I'm not sure how big of a fan you are. It was basically just the special edition was announced for PS5 with upgraded, textures and performance levels. There's like a 120 frame per second mode that they're supporting.
Mhm.
But where do you land on Devil May Cry 5?
I've barely played the Devil May Cry games, any of them. I can recognize them, and I've played sort of the first one before, um, but I thought this looked amazing. I haven't really seen a huge amount on it. I've heard really good things. I know that people really liked it. Um, but yeah, I thought it looked really good. It's made me kind of interested in trying the series now, because it looked lush. Again, I think the majority of things I'm noticing with the PS5 is the particles, and I think this is another game that there's so much going on that it can really take advantage of that. So yeah, I didn't expect it. I think it's really cool though. I think it looks yeah, like a lot of fun. So I'm sure people who enjoy that game series will enjoy that as well.
Right? Yep. Yeah, that was a positive thing to show off. The
Yeah.
next one, I instantly thought of you for this next one. So they showed off Oddworld Soulstorm. We had a
Yeah.
gameplay trailer. So Oddsworld Soulstorm gameplay was shown with protagonist Abe leading a small army through a dangerous mine. What did you think of some of the gameplay shown off for this?
Yeah, I thought it looked really good. I'm glad that they've sort of gone back to the sort of roots a bit more. It looks like a really cool trying to escape kind of story with the sort of like corporate looking boss trying to find you. And yeah, it's so funny as well. There's just such funny games of like great sort of voice acting and character, and yeah, it looks really really good. And I think it will be nice on PS5 as well because the backdrops seem really really detailed and really vast, which I think's always fun in a sort of modern platformer to be able to sort of have these really really vast and beautiful backgrounds. So yeah, looks like a lot of fun. Looks really really funny.
So as someone who's hasn't played them in the past, I noticed that it looks like that was a choice, but like the little lemmings that follow you, the guys you're trying to save, they kind of
Yeah.
have this stock animation that looks a bit choppy, but I feel like that's on purpose. Is that just kind of like a
Yes.
callback to the other games? Like they consciously are doing that, right?
Yeah, that's sort of what I feel. That's what I feel like it kind of is. I think they're just trying to capture that old sort of style. And yeah, I did sort of notice that, but yeah, I suppose it could be seen as a negative, but I think it's just again that is kind of the humor, isn't it? It kind of just makes it a bit funnier just to see the way they move and things like that. Because I don't think this would suit a really really well animated sort of not saying the animation's bad necessarily, but I don't think it would suit a like a realistically animated kind of aesthetic. So yeah, I thought it looked really really great. I think they definitely have a style like it seems to be consistent throughout everything. So yeah, really really excited for that as well. And I think a lot of people are really happy that they've sort of ditched this more the more sort of modern open world kind of take that the other games had. Um, so yeah, really, really cool. My sister's a big Oddworld fan, so I'm sure she'll be happy to see it.
Nice. Yeah, it's more akin to reminds me of the recent Crash Bandicoot reboot, where they're kind of they're not just fully throwing it out the window and going for this different style. They're just revamping that
Mhm.
what got into the dance. You know, that kind of 2D
Yeah,
style, 2.5D, and just improving on that. And I love that idea. And this game also looks
yeah,
crazy funny. At the end,
yeah,
there's the little lemming dudes that are just like
yeah,
complaining about being hungry. It's like that had me laughing out
yeah,
loud. It was,
yeah,
and I think that's what brings a lot of people to that franchise is just not only the gameplay, but that whole world and how funny it is and how it's just kind of fully understands what it wants to be.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think it's refreshing to see when I think mostly when so many gamers I just expect everything to look photorealistic and lifelike, and I think that this is kind of proof that sometimes it's harder to make something that looks good that doesn't look like that. If that makes sense, to give something
Right.
an actual style rather than just going for photorealism. I think that that's something that isn't you don't really see as much anymore. So it's nice to see that.
Which, if Abe was photorealistic, that'd be a goddamn nightmare. I don't want to see anything like
Yeah,
that. I want him
I
to
don't
be
want to see
as
that.
cartoony as possible because
Yeah.
he's not the best looking dude. That whole world is just
No.
kind of like terrifying when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it
But
needs to
yeah,
stay nice and cartoony.
right. So they showed off that. That was pretty dope. And then the next one here, I don't know how big of a Five Nights at Freddy's fan you are, but they showed off a game. It's called Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Another entry to the Five Nights at Freddy's series called Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach was announced, taking place at a new location called Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizza Plex. It will bring new places to explore and new threats to avoid. Security Breach will be available on PS5. So my nephews they love Five Nights at Freddy's for some reason. Like they were just born with this innate love for the game, even though they're way too chicken to actually play the games. Like it always terrifies them,
Yeah.
but they love for some reason the lore, the story. They're always asking me questions about it, and it's just the dumbest stuff possible, but they love it. What'd you think of at
Mm.
least what they showed off?
Um, I just I just don't care about Five Nights at Freddy's at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
My little brother's the same. He loves it, but I just don't see the apart from this sort of obsession from like younger kids. I think it might be because it's got quite a holding in like the YouTube community. So all these YouTubers
Yeah,
that all these little kids watch. I just don't get the appeal. I mean, it's literally just jump scares and that's it.
Yep.
So I wasn't sure whether this was like a proper horror game where you like actually walk instead of just looking at cameras,
This looks like
whatever it
that.
is you do.
That's what gives me a little bit more interested. It looks like you're actually, the way they show off the world looks like you're able to move
Mm.
around, which I
Yeah,
find way more interesting than just the locked into those, those little possible screens you can look at in the traditional games.
yeah. Yeah, I think that could be interesting if it is an actual just normal horror game. Um, but then it just did that sort of weird jump scare thing at the end, and I was like, yeah, I just don't care about it. I thought it was very straight. It was just a weird game to slap in there as well. I thought, um, but yeah, I mean, if people are happy about, I haven't actually had anybody talk about it since the live show. I think there's better things better things for people to talk about, but
We're too old. I mean, it's
yeah,
not. I think they're not trying to reach
yeah,
out
it's
to us.
not no, exactly, yeah. So yeah, but it's yeah, if people like that, then that's cool. I'm not the biggest fan of it, so I'll probably give that one a miss personally.
Same here, same here. But yeah, they did show off that there were cool reflections in that game. I'll give them that. But
Yeah, it's good.
otherwise,
Yeah, nice visuals. Yeah.
right. So now this, speaking of nice visuals, this next gameplay that showed off really blew me away. This is Demon Souls extended
Mm.
gameplay revealed. So it's from Blue Point and Sony Japan. Comes an extended look at Demon Souls gameplay, and this is quite a long bit of gameplay. What did you think about them showing this off?
I thought it looked amazing. I was sort of already quite excited about it because the first trailer they showed off looked really cool. But after seeing that gameplay, it looks just amazing. Really excited for that. And it's been confirmed as a launch game now, hasn't it?
It has. This was, of
So we'll be
course,
able
after
to, yeah,
the launch or
yeah,
the actual event for some reason, but
yeah,
it's going to be a launch game.
yeah, yeah. I think that was the problem with them showing the prices and release date at the end because. I mean, it makes sense, I suppose, but it's like these games that they had to say holiday 2020 because they couldn't spoil the actual release date of the PlayStation. So
True.
it is a bit again chaotic and confusing. But no, it looked really good. I never played Demon Souls, so I'd be going in completely blind. But yeah, the graphics are just unbelievable. I mean, the lighting and the animations of the enemies, like the way they fall when they die, and it just looks it does look really special. And I like how they ended it with the "You died" screen as well. They had to show that off, but yeah, no, it looks really cool. I think Blue Point, because they did the Shadow of the Colossus remake as well, was it?
They did. Yep.
I want to say, yeah, I think that they obviously they got a few clever people on that team because it looks very good.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. I mean, it's one thing that keeps getting pushed every generation. We're at the point where now the CG trailers are the gameplay. Like this game,
Yeah,
when they transition into gameplay, I still had to take a couple seconds to adjust. But it's like, oh, this game is actually running and it looks this great. It's
yeah.
insane. The reflections, the textures, just the animations. It's really insane. And kudos to Blue Point because they're just masters at this whole thing. Yeah, no, I'm sure I'm gonna suck at this game, but it's definitely on my radar now because it just looks so
Mhm.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I've been playing more Sekiro recently as well, and I think just sort of I'm in that sort of frame of mind. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. Um, it's kind of making me want to play like Dark Souls and things as well. It's doing horrible things to me, so um, so who knows? But yeah, no, I think that's the thing when a new console comes out, isn't it? It makes you play games that you wouldn't normally play just because it's new and shiny.
Right.
Um, Although the thing that we'll talk about in a bit is sort of the counter to that, isn't it? Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, and it's there was some drama with at the end of the trailer. It does have a disclaimer saying coming to PC as well, but I guess in
Mm.
the hours afterwards, Sony confirmed this is only on
Was-
PlayStation. It's not coming to PC.
Yeah, yeah, it looks like that was maybe a mistake or left on the wrong sort of placeholder text or something. Um,
Yeah, they mentioned
yeah,
human
because
error. So
Again, Blue Point have only developed for PlayStation. Well, with Shadow of Colossus, I believe that was an exclusive as well, right?
right. Yeah, I guess
So
they
it
don't
makes
own Blue
sense.
Point, but they do own the property of Demon Souls. PlayStation does, so there would be
Yeah,
no reason
yeah.
to release it anywhere else. Maybe years later down the line, just like Horizon got a PC release,
Mhm.
but at the moment, it's just yeah for for PlayStation. And I haven't heard if this is PS4 trans, generational as well, or this is. It seems like with the visuals, this is only PS5, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah. I can't imagine that being on PS4. It looks like that, especially with someone, because I think Bluepoint are quite a small team, even though they did like the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection, and
Hmm.
like they did Gravity Rush as well. I think the PS4 version, everything. I think for them to have to do something like Insomniac are doing, where they have to scale things down and everything, I think it'd just be easier for them just to go straight in on the PS5, and that's something that Mark Cerny had been going on about, how the PS5 makes it easier for smaller teams to, bring their sort of ideas to life and everything. So yeah, I think you can expect that it will be a PS5 only game.
Yeah, for sure. And the next one we'll gloss over. They showed off Fortnite confirmed for PS5 at launch. I think
Yeah,
that was to be expected. You want to get as many of those players transitioning over. That's
yeah,
fine. Great. All those kids
yeah,
will be playing
yeah,
Freddy Fazbender, and also Fortnite in one day.
yeah, yeah. Can't get away
So
from it.
you can't. This next one was pretty dope to see. I think it's still not on the side of a real competitor, at least yet, with Xbox's Game Pass, but they did show off this thing. So PlayStation Plus Collection announced for PS5. Sony announced future PS5 owners subscribed to the PlayStation Plus will have access to a number of big games at no additional cost with the PlayStation Plus Collection. You'll download and play these games directly. It's not a streaming service, and Sony said the entire collection will be available when the PS5 launches on November 12th. So they had there's a huge rundown. There's at least 15 games right now, but it's a lot of first party stuff. You have Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4, even Battlefield 1. You got Monster Hunter, Fallout 4, going down Persona 5, Mortal Kombat X, Detroit Become Human, Days Gone, God of War 2018, Resident Evil Biohazard, Infamous Second Son. So there's quite a bit of games here, and I assumed it was just gonna be first party. It's not. This is going in the right direction. How do you feel about them announcing this PlayStation Plus collection?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the best things that they announced at the showcase. I think it's incredible sort of value for money. Um, I think this is a good response to the people who complain about not getting good enough games with their PlayStation Plus subscription. Um, yeah, I think it's really, really cool, and you'd have to imagine that, considering you're downloading these on the PS5, that they'll have some sort of uh, upscale, or even if it's to do with loading times or frame rates. You'd imagine that they would have that sort of capability, which I think is a huge, huge thing, because then that then makes the games a lot more attractive to people who have already played them. Like, I'd love to play Fallout 4 again, but on PS5, because that didn't run too well. I mean, I think even there was a DLC for Fallout 4 which I just never finished because it ran so badly on PS4.
You're right.
Um, so I think so I think all of these games, and games like Days Gone, Bloodborne as well. Um, I think that, yeah, that it's an absolutely brilliant lineup, and unfortunately, I have probably all of them. I think on PS4, but again,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to play them on PS5. It'll be nice and new controller, and maybe I'll actually complete Final Fantasy 15 this time.
There you go. Yeah, I am hopeful that we are going to see some kind of, utilization of the PS5's hardware when you get these games on there. But it seems like at the moment they haven't announced that yet. Any kind of upgrades to these, it's just like literally, streaming or downloading that same or emulating that same PS4 version of it. So at the moment, it doesn't
Mhm.
seem like it, especially since when they show Last of Us Remastered, it's that PS4 or PS4 Pro version of Last of
Mhm.
Us. It's not, at least announced yet any upgrades. I would like to see that, just like you're saying, to give me another incentive to play these games again. But it seems like it's really for anyone who hasn't adopted a PlayStation yet, because these are all
Yeah,
one of the at least the big
the
gambit
big
of like
games.
huge
Yeah.
hitters for PS4. So yeah, it's getting those players over and giving them something to compete with Game Pass. And you'd have to imagine over the next couple of years, they start to, as these games get older, they add, say, like Last of Us 2, Tsushima, they add these
Mhm.
big hitters as well to keep people along and paying for the service. Maybe every year, every 6 months, they add another big juggernaut to it. But it's a great direction. We've
Yeah.
talked about before how they need to compete with Game Pass on the
Mhm.
level that Game Pass is at, and PlayStation Plus just doesn't provide that same, at least have that same huge line of games like Game Pass does, and this is getting in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the only thing we've got to watch out for is a increase in price in PlayStation Plus, because that could definitely
True.
happen. Um, but I don't know whether this has anything to do with um, a PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus combination of some kind or something like that. But yeah, it's a really cool addition, and I think it's definitely the right step or the right direction for Sony to start to get more and more sort of pro consumer, especially with their decision to keep games on PS4 now as well. I think this might be what they were holding out for, to start to sort of they've made all their money with the PS4 and everything, and
Right.
maybe it's time for them to start giving back a little bit. And what better time than when you've got a brand new console out? So yeah, really really cool stuff. Very surprising, but yeah, probably one of my favorite parts of the showcase was this announcement.
Yeah, this was a big deal for sure. And you're right that we should be wary of, what is the PlayStation Plus price going to be as we transition into
Yeah.
PS5. They do mention in that news blurb that this is there's no additional cost, for the PlayStation Plus collection. But does that just mean that, the overall price of PlayStation Plus is going to increase and you don't have to pay extra for this, but the overall model is going to be increased? I am hoping that as we transition into PS5, they do streamline all these different services, like PlayStation Now, PlayStation Plus. Just include them all in one thing and just make it easier. I think they had to have them all a la carte because they were like launching them along the PS4. So these were new services at the time. But now as we move forward, it's like just bundle it all together and throw it together. Like we don't need to have these things all separate. I guess it gives people a choice. Maybe they don't want PS Now, but they want PlayStation collection plus collection, so maybe it gives us further choice. But at the same time, if you can make it cheaper somehow, just throwing it all together, please do that.
Yeah, like I'd happily pay an extra £20 a year for PS Now to be included with my PS Plus, because I think PS Now is what, £40 a year. So to get a little bit off if you pay for them both together or something like that, that would be a really good. I think that'd be a good response to Game Pass, because I think PS Now is already a good competitor for Game Pass. I mean, I know that the streaming's still a thing and all that, but I mean, I was on there the other day, and there's so many games on there that get added that I don't even realize are on there. And it is a really, really great service. And I mean, the amount of titles it has as well. I mean, sure, Xbox Game Pass has the newer titles and the sort of the more quality over quantity, but PlayStation Now has so many games on there. So I think there's definitely something that can be honed and sort of made a bit better. And I think it's not far off competing with Xbox Game Pass. But yeah, this is a good step forwards.
Gotcha. We do have some breaking news just about the pre-orders that we're talking about. So Jim Ryan confirms more PS5 consoles this holiday than Sony shipped PS4 at launch. Great for their business, but also better supply for consumers. More pre-orders should open soon. Okay, so that gives us hope that it's going to start to trickle more into players' hands. But one of the next ones we'll go into is picking apart that whole pre-order fiasco. But this looks like it's a positive thing amongst all this garbage that's been coming out. But we'll get to that one. But before we chop into those details, we actually had the price finally released and the actual date. So how'd you feel about them pricing the disc model for $499 in the US, $449 in the UK, and then the digital for $399 in the US or $359 in the UK?
Yeah, I think it's really, really good. I was worried, well, not worried, but I was anticipating that the Xbox Series X price would be more competing with the digital version of the PS5. I just had this weird feeling that PlayStation was going to be more expensive, but the fact that the most expensive PS5 is the same price as the Xbox Series X, and then you've got this £100 cheaper version of the exact same power console. I think that is a really, really effective move, because it makes PlayStation literally the cheapest next gen console, because you can get without the disc drive for £369, which is or £359, which is a really, really great price. I mean, it's what, £10 more than the PS4 was on release, so which was already hailed as being really cheap. So yeah, I think it's really, really clever pricing. I don't think they could have done anything else. But yeah, I think it's it's a bit of a sigh of relief, because I was a bit worried that they were gonna do a PS3 and charge us like £800 for it or something.
Yeah, it was really came down to, and I think luckily because Xbox they had their stuff leaked, and so they had to roll with those announcements, that finally forced PS5 to lock in their price, because they're really in this epic battle, just waiting for the other shoe to drop on each other's console to release a price. So I'm glad we didn't end up with a a higher price console. And that was really depending on what Xbox are going to price their disc and discless version at, or the Series S and Series X version at. Yeah, I think this is a great price. They nailed it. Have no interest in the disc version, so I'm definitely going with the $399. Yeah, no, it's they really nailed this. As far as, like you mentioned, it's the cheaper of the next gen options. Even with the Series S, it's still like a downscaled version, because that's technically the cheapest way to jump into next gen, but it's still downscaled with like the GPU, the CPU. This is for sure the cheapest one-to-one like next gen entry point. So I think they really nailed this. If they could have gone, I mean, they couldn't have gone cheaper. That's just the fact of it. So I think this was the cheapest option that we had.
And you've got to remember that this is coming with the only next gen controller as well, because there isn't a next gen controller for Xbox. So, which I saw actually was £60 for the controller, which is only, I think, about £10 more than the DualShock 4, which I think is a really good price as well. I was expecting more like £80 or something like that, because it obviously all the technology that's in it. But yeah, I think £60 is a good price for a controller as well. And if you factor that into it with the PlayStation Plus collection as well, I know Xbox Game Pass is a much better choice, but I just think on its own it's great value, and I'll have no problem paying that off monthly thanks to PayPal credit.
Yeah, sponsored by PayPal credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the $10 raise in price. It's the same in the States too, so it's like a $70 controller when they're usually about $60. I did see there was some negativity online, people angry at the fact that that's now the raise in price for the controllers, as well as the actual games now are pretty much raising at $10 across the board. I guess I'm not too worried about it. It's bundled, of course, in the console, and it has all these different modes. You have the haptic feedback, you have the adaptive triggers, so you're getting more for this next gen controller, versus the Xbox controller is really just the same thing bundle, unless I'm missing on some other features. But they really haven't been announcing anything beyond like maybe they have some kind of adaptation on the vibration stuff that's going on in the controller, but it seems like the same tech, and that's their benefit at the same time, that it works with all their at least current generations of Xbox, but then you don't have this innovation. So it's, I can see both sides, but if this thing is coming with the console, I'm not worried about it.
No, yeah, exactly. It's and also with £60 being, because the games are now looking like AAA games going to £70 now. I mean, even Demon Souls is listed 70 on Game, which might be a placeholder because that's a remake. I don't know whether that will actually be the case, but so that means that the controllers are actually less than the game, which isn't too bad if you look at it that way. I mean, it's still a lot of money, and I'm not. It's not like I'm going to be able to buy, but buy one a month or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it means it's still sort of feasible to be able to get a second controller and everything. So yeah, I think the pricing's spot on. Really pleased with it, and hopefully this should sort of help people, the transition be a little bit easier for certain people, and if not, the PS4 still being supported anyway, so you can't really lose.
Right. It does create more folds with the fact that we now know that, like, say, Miles Morales is on PS4. It makes me a bit frustrated that the PS4 DualSense, or the DualShock 4 rather, doesn't work with PS5. Now I'm on the other end of it, thinking there's really no reason why it can't. If you have a PS4 version of Miles Morales with those features turned off, just turn off those same features on the PS5 version, and your controller transfers over. So it's like, I'm not bummed because I'm going to have this controller anyways, but at the same time, I don't see any more reason why that they're forcing that you adopting to the PS5 controller, when you could just, on the software side, you can turn these features on and off, and that's the only difference really in these two controllers. So it's like they kind of have to explain that more to make sense of it, unless, or they really don't and nobody cares. But I feel like they have to provide a real reason, and beyond the glaring fact that they just chose, hey, we want you to pay more for this controller. Okay, well, maybe just tell me that and I'll be at ease. But it seems like that's the reason.
Yeah, I mean, it might be because as well, maybe they want to sort of make that decision for you. They want to make sure that if you're putting this money into a PS5, they want you to experience it how they want you to experience it. Maybe they worry that if the DualShock 4 was compatible with the PS5, that a lot of people would not be getting the best experience out. It might dampen their opinion on the game. It might, because I mean, people like, I mean, I'd probably just cheap out and use DualShock 4 if that was the case, and then I might be like, oh, that Spider-Man game wasn't too great because I didn't, it didn't have any haptic feedback or anything. So
Right.
I don't know whether they're sort of one of those making that choice for you kind of things. But no, I see what you mean as well. I mean, it's obviously easy to have these features turned off and on at at a moment's notice. But so we'll just have to see what happens. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure the DualShock 4s, especially when new colors started coming out, the original went down in price anyway. I think you can get like the black DualShock 4 for like 30-40 pounds over here. So hopefully
Yeah.
that will start happening as well. But I mean, I never play local multiplayer on my PlayStation anyway, so I'm not. I think that one will do me, and then it's when the new colors come out that's when things start getting too hard to resist, I think.
Yeah, I mean, same here. It's only a bummer that like I have, I think, 4 DualShock 4 controllers floating around, and I
Yeah,
have a gold one and like a cool see-through. So it'd be rad to just like because I have those and I just like how they look, play that. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, it
yeah,
doesn't really matter. So it's just a weird little nitpick. But
yeah.
yeah, so they showed off the price. It was finally they revealed that, and then at the end we got a little teaser for God of War Ragnarok. So they showed off this teaser.
Mm.
It's a sequel to the 2018 reboot, officially announced for the PS5. Not much was revealed, but we do know it's scheduled to release sometime in 2021. I found the 2021 date that they showed to be insane. What did you think about them
Yeah,
trying to pull this off? What, 3.5 years later, past the 2018 God of War?
yeah. It's very, very quick turnaround. Um, I mean, I'm sure it might be delayed or whatever at some point, but
I think so.
if
Yeah.
just to even have that as the release date or the release year, even if it was the very end of 2021, it's so soon, and God of War is still very fresh in a lot of people's minds. So yeah, I mean, again, it could be that, like Mark Cerny's been saying, that the PS5 makes it easier for developers to work on. It might be a case of that. Might be a case of, I know that God of War, because of the behind the scenes documentary, there was a lot of not turmoil, but there was a lot of problems because they moved office and everything like that, and they had sort of lots of problems with production and things like that. So it's kind of like maybe they had the boat sort of moving, and they just had to um, basically do what they did again. So it could be that as well. And I mean, God of War looks great. It doesn't need that much of a upheaval. Um, I think even the first game, if it was to be upscaled to its maximum fidelity on a PS5, I think that would do me for the second God of War game. So
Oh yeah.
um, yeah, it's a crazy turnaround, and if that is the case, and if it does come out in 2021, then that's testament to the guys developing it.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings where, of course, I'm super excited if they can nail that, but why would they almost limit themselves in dev time? Like you mentioned, you nailed it with the documentary. They talked about all the turmoil they went through. Of course, a lot of that was even deciding where to take that game, what direction to take it with story.
Mhm.
They had to decide that for a while. They had to build the actual engine and manipulate the gameplay to where it worked. So that took time, and then changing studios or actually moving. So there's all these things that held it back. But I guess when you remove that, you have this engine that works. You have to tweak it, I imagine, a little bit more for PS5 and like this new integration. You have even you have properties that can transition over. You have textures, you can reuse stuff. You have the story that you already know which direction you want to go to. So maybe in 3 years they can just speed rush this thing through. But at the same time, I feel like why would they take your sweet time with this? Because this is a huge, especially since the last one, it really cemented itself back in the forefront as this huge juggernaut. So why would you limit yourself in any way on Sony's end? Why wouldn't you give them as much time as needed and try and go for 2022? I think if they mentioned 2022 on this trailer, everyone would have been like, yeah, that's to be expected. Okay, that's fine. We're
Yeah,
pumped.
yeah,
We can't wait. But
yeah.
the fact that they're 2021, it's just, man, it just seems way too soon if you're going to eventually have to delay this thing again in the first place. But I mean, maybe you mentioned the whole Mark Cerny talking about it's a faster turnaround time for games. That's great. Maybe that's also playing into this as well. It just seems
Mhm.
like it's way too fast. So what do you think about? There's been people speculating, is this maybe a Miles Morales version where it's just kind of a God of War 2.5, which I wouldn't be mad at, but what if it's something like that?
Yeah, no, I'm sure it could be. I think maybe 3 years is a bit long for something like that to happen, but I mean, it definitely
Mm,
could be. It could just be a stepping stone between the two. But no, I think it is a proper sequel. I think that's the reason why they, it was because it had been said at the end, oh, we've got one little thing to show you, and the trailer was very ominous and mysterious. It kind
right.
of had its own hype before it even happened, kind of thing. Um, and also you've had Corey Barlog say a lot of the time that he doesn't like downloadable content. He doesn't like microtransactions or anything like that. And that he had no plans for DLC for the first game. So I imagine it is a sequel, but yeah, it's just I think the date is something that is quite surprising. And I think we just have to keep our faith in the guys behind it and not worry too much. And hopefully the sort of the like lower sort of dev time means that they can save some money and put more into the third one.
Yeah, I mean, here's hoping. It seems like they would have had 1 week off after that second one or the first one
Yeah.
release, and then they're right back to it. Which I know they
Yeah.
mentioned Corey Barlog in interviews after God of War mentioned that there was a lot of content they cut. So it's like maybe they have stuff already
Yeah.
a leg up. They can transfer that over. So I mean, it is possible. It's just it seems really insane to me. And if they can nail
Yeah.
that, I mean, awesome. But yeah, I would have to
Yeah.
expect that if it's really 2021, it's got to be January 29th or like December 29th, like the very end
Yeah.
of 2021
Yeah.
for this thing to be
Yeah.
ready. But no, I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. Very exciting.
Nice. So they showed that off, and there were some little tidbits of information, frustratingly after the stream. So we have Miles Morales and Horizon Forbidden West actually are going to launch on PS4 as well. So that's one we didn't talk about. That's also getting a PS4 launch, which we talked about makes more sense. They want to sell more software. I'm hoping it doesn't limit those games, but those games really flourished on PS4 anyway, so I'm sure it's going to be fine. Hopefully. Demon Souls is also confirmed after the conference by Sony that it will be a PS5 launch game. We have the Demon Souls price, $10 more, so they're kind of going across the board. The full-blown next-gen releases are all going to be $10 more, $70 in the States. Same with Spider-Man and Miles Morales, which has, with the Ultimate Edition anyways, it comes with a higher res PS4 version of Spider-Man or PS5 version of Spider-Man. Yeah, so they had that announcement afterwards, and further turmoil happened with these details afterwards when it came to the pre-order. So I kind of had a beat by beat time frame as I watched it unfold on Twitter. So the pre-order pain. So the PS5 conference ends with a price and date, but no word on pre-orders. 15 minutes after the show, Jeff Keighley starts updating Twitter with the following. So there's the tweet here from Jeff Keighley. Per Sony, PlayStation 5 pre-orders will be available starting tomorrow at select retailers. So this wasn't on the stream. This is from Jeff Keighley, Game Awards, and huge person in the games industry. And then 6 minutes later, then we get the update from PS5 on Twitter saying that they'll start as early as tomorrow. And on paper, okay, that's fine. It took him a little bit of a delay. Jeff Keighley, for some reason, got the news early. And then about later in that hour, Jeff Keighley also chimes in. I'm hearing some retailers may make inventory available today as well. Stay tuned. Which that was also insane that not only was it going from tomorrow, but it's actually just in a few hours from now in real time. And that's when the shit hit the fan. It started updating online that Walmart has it, now Best Buy has it, and Target, and it started rolling into these retailers way before Sony eventually planned on this thing hitting the shelves. How do you feel about how they handled the initial beginnings of these pre-orders?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a mess. I think all they had to do was just have a little screen at the end saying, pre-orders start tomorrow, and then just not let any of the retailers go early, because it has been very confusing. But I think hopefully it'll all sort of even out over the next few days, and there'll be sort of more steady sort of flows and steady sort of stocks and things like that. But I don't know. I mean, a new console is such a unique thing, isn't it? It's so difficult to predict. I mean, I remember when the PS2 came out, sort of my dad driving around for hours and hours trying to find one because that was another console that was sold out everywhere. And there was only news recently that they've just cut 4 million units from the production. So I imagine these things are going to be quite rare to get. well, not rare, but quite difficult to get for some people. So I'm just hoping that I get one. I don't care if everyone else doesn't get one, as long as I get one.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, and I mean, we talked
um,
about at the start of the show that the whole RTX debacle where bots just instantly took over that inventory. So at least it's not that
mhm,
where people were able to get it. It was just, limited stock, and you weren't really in the loop when it came to when these pre-orders went live and which retailer had them. You had to kind of be on the lookout and investigate, but at least it wasn't that bad. But it is hard, it's releasing a new console that's highly in demand. It's tough,
mhm.
but I feel like it could have been handled a bit better. But really, it fell on
Yeah,
the retailers to hold that street date, and none of them did that, and they just
no,
started their pre-orders then and there. So, but I guess at that point, once the floodgates are open, there's nothing you can do on Sony's end.
yeah, yeah. I think it was just a pain because no one knew. I think people had to stumble upon them accidentally.
Right.
I was asleep when it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a bit annoying, but here's hoping that tomorrow, because like I said, I mean, Argos said that they're going to start theirs tomorrow. I hope they don't start actually at like 9 p.m. tonight, and I don't realize. Um, so so yeah, it's a big mess, but it was always going to be. I think is always going to be just pure chaos as everyone tries to get their hands on one.
Right. And at least we don't have to go to stores like you mentioned with the PS2 era, driving around physically
Yeah,
going anywhere. You mentioned not wanting to go
yeah,
up the steps earlier, so let alone
yeah,
like we don't have to leave our
exactly. Yeah,
house, we can just hit
yeah,
refresh. So it is way
yeah,
easier and first world problems for sure. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm hoping they kind of change gears and hopefully open it up to more people in the next coming days and weekend. If anything, it shows. And Xbox had a great tweet where they mentioned, as all this chaos is happening, they mentioned Xbox pre-orders are going to happen soon, and we'll let you know when they happen. So they really
yeah,
capitalized on the chaos with PlayStation. But it just shows that I think there's overall we can tell that there's just more demand for the PS5 than the
yeah.
Xbox, Series X and Series S.
Yeah, and if you look at all the polls, I mean, everyone's saying, what are you going to buy? I mean, it's always PlayStation 5, like with the extreme majority. So yeah, I think Xbox has done a really good job. I think that, if we were to like wipe the slate clean, I think it'd be a lot more even. But I think with Sony's proven track record of exclusives and especially for people like us who sort of understand how much better exclusives look as well, just from a development standpoint. I For me, there's only one choice, especially when you have a PC as well, because PCs are Xboxes pretty much. Um, it is going to be definitely an interesting next gen because I don't think it's going to be as competitive as it always has been. I think it's just going to be people playing games on whichever platform allows them to play them to the best they can. So, um, and I think the only reason PlayStation is so highly sort of sought after over Xbox is because of their exclusives, because of that sort of attractiveness that being the only place to be able to play these certain games holds. Um, so yeah, yeah. Hopefully I'll get one. Otherwise, I'll have to get an Xbox, and then and then it's all screwed.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Where I think this event, they really had to nail the reason why you need a PS5. They had to focus on their exclusives, and that's always been their leg up this last gen with Xbox. Is just like, yeah, Xbox is possibly cheaper with the Series S and has Game Pass, which is a better deal, but the games you want to play, and that's what it boils down to. The games you want to play are locked into PlayStation. They had to prove that. They had to make sure their price for the PS5 was on point. They hit all those bullet points, and so I think they're in
Mhm.
a great situation. But I give kudos for sure to Xbox always because they're up against the ropes and they're making the biggest swings and chances. And we need that competition with Sony. If that competition doesn't exist, there's no reason for Sony to do anything positive. Like the PS5 would be $700-800. There would be no PlayStation collection. There'd be no reason to
Yep.
appeal to consumers. They would just rule the show and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So we need Xbox to keep them innovating and changing and competing.
Yeah.
And so we definitely need that dynamic. And I'm glad it exists, but I think there's still more demand for the PS5. It comes down to those exclusives.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think you put it well. I think the sort of competition is helps drive these decisions and the sort of hard work that goes into acquiring the talent and making sure that they're investing in the right things and sort of creating that sort of brand. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it is very important to the industry to have these two companies butting at each other's heels and making sure that they're working to the best they can.
I mean, look at
So yeah,
Nintendo. They do whatever the hell they
yeah,
want because no
yeah,
one's in that mobile marketplace,
no,
area. So they do whatever the hell they want. They'll offer you Super Mario for 5 days and then it's gone. Like they just do what they want
yeah,
to do because there's no reason to compete with
yeah,
anybody else.
yeah. Like they still don't have like good Wi-Fi on their consoles, and they just don't care. And even the people who play Nintendo, they don't care either.
No.
It is a very strange sort of what's the word, sort of atmosphere around there. And especially what always gets me with Nintendo is they never make new IPs. It's always the same ones like Mario, Zelda,
Right.
Smash Brothers, whatever they are, Donkey Kong, whatever. I'm not really into Nintendo anymore,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm trying to
Right.
say.
Right. Yeah, no, the horrible future, and it's not really that horrible, but like is where Nintendo's going. If PlayStation keeps without the competition and keeps focusing on exclusives, that's kind of the end goal where it goes is something more into Nintendo, which still isn't bad. I mean, we get awesome Nintendo
Yeah,
games. The Switch is insanely successful, so it's not like the end of the
yeah,
world. But that's kind
no,
of where that leads to. So you need that
mhm,
competition. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, we covered that event. They actually released after the event some of the box art for the actual physical retail releases of the PS5, and I have the
yeah.
pictures in the doc. How do you feel about? It seems on point, and nothing insanely crazy on the box art.
Yes, it's cool. It says I think it's the first thing I've ever seen something say 8K on, like to actually see like the logo of it, which is pretty cool.
I kind of hate that because 8K is just so overkill
Yeah,
and not necessary, and no one has a TV for it, and
no,
it's like why even have that on there?
does it say disc free in the
I
top
think
right?
the one in black is a disc free, and then the one in the bottom, the white, is the disc version of it. So yeah, that's
Oh
probably the
yeah,
right
yeah, yeah.
answer.
Yeah, so it says disc free console in the top right. Okay. I'm glad they specify that.
Right. So little
I'm
Timmy
sure
doesn't get
there'll
the
be
wrong one on holiday.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But yeah, I think it'll be going back to the pricing as well. I think when you've got like parents going out and buying a new console, they might see this PS5 for £360 or the Xbox Series X or the Xbox Series S, and I think these prices are going to play into them sort of a lot as well because if you have a little kid sort of saying, "Oh, I want the new PS5 or I want the new Xbox," that goes straight in the parents' ear out the other end. So
Right.
I think price is a big helping sort of thing here as well, which I think the Series S will probably sort of do quite well with as well.
Well, you mentioned that, and that was my first thought is that at least with PS5, there's two models, but it's PS5. That's all you have to understand when it comes down to
Mhm.
your parents buying you one at the local retail store. But with Xbox, they're still selling the One S, the One X, the Series X, the Series S. There's
Yeah,
now all these different naming conventions and different models. It just seems way more complicated. And I imagine we're all used to iPhones and stuff where it's like there's the iPhone F5, whatever the fuck. Like they're always coming out with different ones. So we're used to as consumers all these different variations, but it still doesn't help the general consumer when they're going to actually buy this physically, especially like for someone else. They're going
yeah,
to their local store and they have all these different models. And I think PS5
yeah,
really nails just the simplicity of offering, at the very most, it's two boxes you have to worry about.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's a tweet that I just sort of brought up because it sort of shows the complexity of all the different names, and it's from IGN that says the Xbox Series S will not run Xbox One X enhanced versions of backwards compatible games, but will instead run Xbox One S versions of Xbox One and Xbox 360 titles. And
I
I
see
remember
this,
reading
yeah.
it going, "What? What does that mean?" There's just too many Xboxes
Yeah.
and series and yeah, it's just yeah, I think you're right. I think just having like the PS5 is it's so easy. It's complete chronological order since the first one.
Yep.
They've yeah, they've just sort of really I don't know whether it's because I don't know, they couldn't call the original Xbox, the Xbox One, I think was it, when the PS2 was out, because then it made it sound like the PS2 was inherently better than the Xbox. Xbox, which I think again goes down to
Right.
parents not really knowing anything and just looking at names.
But they made it more
So they kind of
complicated
shot
by
themselves.
introducing the one and then the series. Like,
Yeah,
but you're right, they shot
yeah,
themselves in the foot with the 360 era because they needed something with a three to compete with the PS3 when it came to
yeah,
store shelves, and then
yeah,
it was set in stone from then on.
yeah, yeah. And then they went to the Xbox One, which
Right.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think for like, I think I'm starting to sort of understand which ones are which now. I think the one that really gets me is the Xbox One X and then the Series X, because then I always forget, and then the One S, which is the little digital one,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then
There's the
and
well,
yeah.
that one has a disc drive version as well. So there's the 1S
Oh, it
with a disc,
does.
the 1S without a disc. Yeah, so it
Okay.
splinters even further.
Yeah. Okay. I think they just need to like leave those ones behind and just have two. Because if it's just the Series X and the Series S, I can deal with that. But
Do you think they
yeah,
can go
the
back to the
rest.
normal naming convention and do like an Xbox 2? Would that completely throw everything out
Yeah,
of whack when you have like say the PS6 and then you have an Xbox 2?
I don't see why not. I think Xbox is such an established name now that I don't think the numbers really mean anything. Um, so it's more like, oh, the new Xbox or the new PlayStation kind of thing.
Right.
I think now, but I don't know. I think maybe they're just too far gone. They're someone was like, yeah, let's do the S and the X thing, and someone they ran with it, and now they can't do anything about it. So because if they now came out and were like, this is the Xbox Two, then it'd just be even worse. It'd be so confusing.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely don't envy them. Their marketing department's got to be, full time just trying to figure out how do we spin this and make sure people know it's a new thing, but it's not, in the past, but it's more powerful, but
Yeah.
also they know what the hell we're talking about. Yeah, it's a
Every
nightmare.
every time they do a write up on a game or something, they have to like do math calculations in their head to like think about what it's coming out on and what it'll play out on which one. And
Yep.
yeah, it's gonna be it's just gonna become like a PC. It's like you're gonna have like 30 different Xboxes out there, and you don't know which one which one's which. They're gonna start doing it like the bloody graphics cards where you like have to look at the second number and then the third number. It's
Right.
literally getting now.
Which I'm
Um,
barely getting
yeah,
my brain around, but yeah, it's just like that. I mean, it's no easier in the PC world where there's just so many different SKUs and models, and every 2 years they're introducing more. So it could be
yeah,
worse, I guess, than where Xbox is right now.
yeah. You'll probably be able to slide one of these Xboxes into your PC soon enough or something like that. Surprise me. But no, in all seriousness, I think both consoles look great. I say both, I suppose all three of them.
Four?
They all look really four. Oh yeah, because the digital version. Yeah, I think they're all going to be great for their respective consumers, and yeah, it's a really great age of gaming, I suppose. We've got some really good stuff on the way, and in fact, that's something I said when we were watching the showcase. I think it was when the Harry Potter thing came on because it went from Final Fantasy to it was after Final Fantasy.
Oh, Miles? No, yeah, Miles was after that.
See Spider-Man, then to Harry Potter, and then when the Hogwarts sort of trailer was on, I was like, "God, I'm gonna have so many games to play." Just because everything they were showing just looked great. Um, so yeah, it's all very exciting times, and we finally made it to where we've been moaning about getting to.
Yep.
And yeah, it's fun.
Almost. I mean, here we're still waiting for November. That's the next milestone, and then we'll finally, hopefully, have these things in our hands and be able to complain further about, they didn't include this cord in the box and blah blah blah.
Yeah, we'll be careful treading until November.
Yeah, and you're right that this is the best time. I mean, you have so many options. You have four different SKUs to choose from. I mean, looking back with previous game launches, it's you have two models, and now you have all these different options. You can really pick what works for you, whether it's Game Pass, whether it's the exclusives on PS5. It's like you can really choose as a consumer, and then or go to Switch and PC. It's like all these different options have opened up, and even the Oculus 2 was announced the other day. So it's like now's the best time, of course not for our wallets, but like we have the best time to choose where do you want to fit in, what works for you.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's sort of why the whole console wars just need to just stop because it's just literally about whatever you prefer playing on, and
Yep.
that's the thing now. There's so many different choices that you can't blame anyone for choosing any of them. They all have their pros, they all have their cons, and Yeah, I think with the Oculus 2 as well, which is basically a games console in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really good time to like games. But yeah, like you said, not for our wallets. That's probably the only negative.
Well, PayPal credit is coming to the rescue, so we can have all this stuff and be enslaved forever to our creditors. But
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, as long as you die before you have to pay it off, you're good. That's how it works.
I won't be able to hear them with the new Pulse headset on, so that's fine.
When they're knocking on your door and towing your house away, yeah. Alrighty, Callum. Yeah, we'll end it there then. It's a chonky hour and a half episode we got going. Where can they find you and keep up with you online?
On Twitter at Bear Munro.
Awesome. And you keep up with the show as well on Twitter, Plastic Heart Pod. That is it for us this week. We'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.
See you later.